Welcome to another episode of the Occasionally Accountable Podcast. We are back again with another episode.
Hey.
Oh, we're back, y'all.
33.
33. Wow. We're getting old.
I'm older than that, and I'm still a spry chicken, baby.
We're getting old.
Still running these niggas crazy.
Well, we are coming back off of a busy March. It was my birthday, and that was so much fun. And then I went on vacation. And it was good. It was a really, really good month.
Where you go?
I went on a cruise. I went to Cozumel, Mexico. So that was fun. As you can see, I'm like very like chill because I think I'm still on a boat somewhere in the middle of the ocean. And I'm not. I'm in Dallas, Texas, and in real life. So. But yeah, things are going good with me. How are you doing?
Good. I was very outside this week. I've been very outside. I went to an event on Sunday. I was out on Tuesday for something. I went on a date on Wednesday.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
like a real date?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And then
you just said it so chill. You just put it in.
Because I'm not about to keep fucking with that nigga.
Oh.
And then we went to the Freeman on Thursday. So I've been like outside a lot this week. But the win of that is I met some really dope people. I met some like really dope creatives that we were able to like exchange information and shit like that. So I was like, okay, little network mommy, but I'm tired a little bit from it. Not physically. I think I'm a little like socially.
The battery's drained.
Getting a little lower. But I don't know. It's a weird conflict because I'm also like, it's sunny as hell outside. So then it's like, nice. I don't care about that social battery. It's outside time because the sun is here.
And it's been kind of rainy here a little bit.
Yeah. And actually, now that say that I was outside in the rain, so I just didn't give a fuck. I think I just needed to like throw some ass or something. No, I'm just playing. I wasn't.
Oh shoot!
I did throw some ass too those days. On the dance floor.
God,
that
Brittny been
overdose
outside.
Event was.
Oh, that looked so much fun.
Oh,
I meant to tell you that. That looked like so much fun. It didn't even look like it was Dallas.
I feel like if you go out where the niggas are at in Dallas, that's kind of low key what it looked like. It looked like every nigga on Hinge that I had swiped a no to was in that space.
All of the like social apps that I'm on, everybody was talking about it, so I know everybody was there.
That shit was hella fun.
Oh, it looked
that
so
shit
much
was
fun.
So good. And shout out to all the artists there. Like, there was one painting that I wanted so bad. I got like a smaller print of it because the original painting was $3,500, and I was like,
Know your worth, queen.
One day, sir. It's not today.
King. Know your worth, king.
You deserve every one of those pennies because it's a fantastic piece of art.
It's the one you put on Instagram.
But I just can't. Not the shoe. There was like a smaller one.
Oh, I don't know that.
There was like the big Jordan 1 shoe that this girl had painted that was really dope. She had another painting too that was really dope, but that shit was like, I think that was like $1,500. And then I just didn't like mentally prepare myself to be like, people are going to be selling like expensive pieces of art, which they should, but I just didn't process that. But it was that one, and there was like a smaller print that I had, and it's very, I'll show you later. It's very intricate, but he had like the original painting of it. And I was like, oh my God. But they had everything. They had artists, food vendors. They had Black-owned perfume companies, Black-owned like weed companies.
Weed?
Oh yeah, they was out there selling.
Okay,
period. And not THC. Delta 9.
Delta 9, 10, 11, 12. Wink, wink.
You know?
I love
all
us.
the winks.
I love us. Was our popcorn girl there? Remember when we went to North Node? I cannot find her business card.
Oh, I have it.
Okay, good.
Because I still want to use her for an event.
I do too.
Yes.
Just the non-THD popcorn was bussin'.
That shit was good.
It was delicious. I was randomly thinking about that the other day. I'm like, I need to find
that
her
popcorn
again.
was hella good. But yeah, it was. I'm just like, I've been outside with niggas and artists, and it was really dope. Gabe was DJing. Gabe. Oh. Marlissa's podcast partner that's at Black Canvas.
Yeah.
Black Canvas.
Yeah.
He was DJing, and it was good. The guy who hosts Black Canvas that sings a lot.
Oh, the guy who does the set?
Yeah, he does. He was hosting the artist portion because they also had singers. They had literally every kind of artist you could have. Was like every kind of artist or entrepreneur.
Where was
in
it?
The space. It was at Sandaga.
Oh, I don't know Sandaga. Was it like a where? Like a
Sandaga is like it's pretty much like a bar, but they have, so it's like a bar, and then they have an outside area that has like tables, and they make like flower walls and shit like that.
Oh,
and then they have another area in the back of that, which they guys put like even more vendors too.
I'm so mad I missed it.
But yeah, next time we were like, oh, we're getting our tickets early and we're getting a table. Cause that was the only negative, is I'm like, I sold myself at 34. I ain't standing up nowhere. But it was still really late. You got to dance a lot and it was fun. But next time I'm like, we are gonna get a table, and it wasn't hella expensive. Like a table was like $150, and it included hookah, and it wasn't $150 per person. It was like $150 for your table, so you can split that however you want to with how many people you bring.
Wow. Are they doing it again? I'm so sorry.
They said it's I think it's either every quarter or every 6 months.
Okay.
I don't remember which one.
So I have a chance to hop back in.
Yeah, that was good. And then also, let me give a shout out right now. If you are in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, Thursday nights, the Tim Starling experience happens at the Freeman at 10 p.m. Get there before that because it will get packed. You need to go. Like, that was, when I say it was an experience, it was an experience. Like, if you're someone who likes like live music, good singers, it was funny because you noticed like all the people that grew up in Black church, like loved, and everybody was singing in the crowd. There was this one girl who was a table behind us, who could blow, baby.
Was it like open mic?
You're hella funny. No, sorry, our videographer just made an explicit move. But no, it wasn't open mic. It was their performance.
Oh, it was
but like everybody was singing because they're singing covers. And this girl, you could tell she was like shy and quiet, but as she noticed everybody else started singing, she started singing more. And I kept looking back, and I said,
"Get this girl a mic,
baby. Do you need to be up there?" She's like, "Oh no." And I was like, first of all, you need to go to Black Canvas and you need to do open mic, because Mama had pipes, like pipes. And then everybody on stage, it was just, Dallas's art scene is fantastic, is what I have to say. If you're not tapped in, get tapped in. Cause
I love that you did a lot of exploring this week.
We were outside. Black creatives on 15 this week, and I enjoyed it.
Come on 15?
On 15, and I'm going to go stay in the house for like 2 months. Lies.
As you were talking, it's always funny when, like, you know, you go to those like big singing events, open mics or whatever, karaoke even, and then you see like that random person that's like really singing, and you're like, ma'am, why are you doing this behind my head? You need to get on the stage. And they're like, no. We have a good friend that does the same thing. We're like, Judy, she can sing, and she'd be like, no, I can't do it. Girl,
stop playing with us, Judy.
Stop playing.
Don't play with it. Shout out to Lola Brooke.
Well, that actually gets into the topic that I wanted to talk about today, around imposter syndrome and feeling like that you aren't worthy of being in a space. I feel like this topic gets like talked about to death, but the sort of point that I wanted to make about it is like, sometimes people think of imposter syndrome and they like get into a space and they feel like they can't do it. But I think the other kind of half of that is like doing it, but not giving yourself the like credit and energy for doing it. And I noticed that, so I started a new job, shout out, praise God, hallelujah, because there's people getting laid off and I got one, so thank you. But I started a new job, and like, you know how I be like quick to like complain sometimes about scenarios that I'm in, and I was given like a project, and it was like a really, really tight deadline, and I was getting ready to leave for I was just feeling very stressed, and so I ended up getting it done. But then afterward, everyone was like, "Oh, you know, thank you for doing that. That looked great." And like my response every single time was, "Oh, you know, I barely did it," or "Oh, you know, I don't know what I'm talking about," or "I can't believe they accepted it." And I was just kind of like shooting myself down every time somebody wanted to like give me credit. And a lady who I was coworkers with, she was like, "You know, you need to," and I don't really know her well. And she basically was like, you need to stop doing that, like, because it makes it seem like you really don't know what you're doing. And then people lose confidence in your ability to lead, and you're new in this department. And so when someone says you did a good job and then you say, you know, I barely made it, then they're like, oh, well, maybe she barely made it. Like, no one needed to know that.
Yeah. And so if I told somebody a good job and they were like, I barely got it done, I'd be like, I ain't handing that shit to you again.
Exactly. And so then when I was thinking about why I was doing it, I was feeling like personally that like I barely got it done and I didn't do a good job. And the job that I have, I'm like, how in the hell? I say this a lot. Like, how the hell did I do this? And when I was thinking about it more, that's just the same. That's imposter syndrome. That's the same exact thing of like not feeling like you're worthy of being in this space. Like when somebody shows appreciation for the work that you do, or, you know, is impressed by the work that you do, and then you tell them it's not impressive, that is imposter syndrome. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the definition of imposter syndrome, because you made a really good point. Some of us may not know what that is. So the definition of imposter syndrome is, and I'm just going to read it, also known as imposter phenomenon or imposterism, is a psychological occurrence in which people doubt their skills, talents, or accomplishments and have a persistent internalized fear of being exposed as fraud. And that is literally how I feel every day when I go to work. So I wanted to ask you, have you ever experienced that, feeling like a fraud in the work that you do, professionally or creatively?
A lot less professionally, because especially at this age, significantly less professionally. I feel like I feel it a little bit more creatively. Professionally, I don't, just because for some, and this is just my opinion, you're going to be like, ooh, hot take. But the amount of work I've done in education at this point, I just understand that, like, I'm always going to be up against a little bit of white mediocrity. So I don't ever feel like I'm not good enough, because I'm like, I already know I'm gonna be better at this.
Period.
I just do, and I don't have no fear around it. I'm just like, it is what it is. I also know that part of that confidence comes from, I guess, just kind of like doing a lot, but also just how I was raised and how my dad was. My dad was very much like, if your name is associated to it, give it 100%. Even if you don't want to do it anymore, you can choose to not do it at a certain point. Like, you can choose to end something, but as long as you're there and you're doing it, you better show up and do well, because your name is associated to it. So I think after years and years of doing that, I don't really move in the workspace that way. Creatively, I do sometimes experience that, because it's like there's so much unknown in the creative realm, and there's so much there's so many factors, because you're always dealing with which I'm trying to get away from, but you're dealing with, how are people going to receive this thing that I create, and I don't have any control over how people receive it or any of those things. So like, anytime I go into a space where whether it's an event or you know, like this or whatever, there is still a little hesitation of like, am I really doing this? And like, are people going to receive this well? Are they going to know that, like, you know, because when you produce an event, it's like, you know, every detail, and you're wondering if people are going to see the holes. Like, are people going to know that? Yeah. And so that's where it comes to me. And that also is probably why I get hyper focused on being so detail oriented. It's probably as a symptom of like not really feeling like I got this, you know, in the space. So then I'm just trying to like mitigate every possible thing that could go wrong. And I've mitigated 15 more things than anybody else would ever notice. Right. And so I think my response to it is to be like over prepared.
Yeah, I do see that. I feel like though sometimes, like, I don't know, it feels a little like that there is a difference between discrediting your own ability and being humble. But sometimes I like, at least when I was like thinking about that scenario, I was kind of trying to like be like, oh, it's not that big of a deal, you know, whatever. And I felt like that was being like, you know, I was trying to be more humble in this space and not be like, I'm that person, you know. But it came across.
I blame church for that.
Yeah.
That's how I feel. That's the views and opinions of B.Nation.
Yeah, but it's, I mean, it's kind of true, because you're kind of taught to like not have the attention on you. And even when somebody wants to give you the attention, you're like, this is a team effort, or I couldn't have done it without you guys. But the perception is that I didn't realize is that you're discrediting your own ability.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to find the balance sometimes of that, especially in a professional setting, because I'm new to this space.
Mm-hmm.
I spent a lot of time, money, and energy to get to this space. And now that I'm here, and I want to do really well, but I also don't want people to think that I'm coming in like feeling like I know everything, you know? So it's hard to balance those things.
I think you have to, not that you know everything, but I think it's about being confident in knowing what you offer.
Mm-hmm.
And knowing that, like, I think when people apply for jobs and things of that nature, like, it's a very, I want you to pick me situation. When in reality, it's like, no, you have a hole in your company that's causing you to lose money.
Mm-hmm.
And you want me because of my expertise. So that's what I'm about to come here and give y'all. And it is like the openness of like, I need to learn. I need to see the space, need to learn the space. I need to build a team, because part of my leadership has to be that I know what my blind spots are. So I build the team up. But like, to me, it's like, I think being confident for some reason just seems to overshadow a lot of things.
It does. Confidence almost seems like the cure to imposter syndrome. Is just faking it until you make it.
That's not confidence.
Okay.
Right? Like, because confidence isn't faking it. Because then isn't that really just imposter all over again? I feel like confidence is really like believing in yourself. Like, even if it's not that, even if you're going into a new situation that you may not have never done, it's still believing in yourself that like, I'm capable of figuring this out. You know, like, even if I don't have it figured out right now, like, I'm capable of figuring this out. This isn't like solving world peace. Like,
yeah, but I feel like that's the trick, right? Is like not being able to believe in yourself. Like, if I truly don't believe that I can do something for whatever reason, I've never done it before, it's a whole new world, I have no data points to know that I can't just be like, well, now I believe it. Like, I feel like sometimes you have to kind of fake the funk a little bit to get there.
Yeah.
A little bit.
I'm not saying you don't fake the funk. I just don't call that confidence.
Yeah.
Because I'm a firm believer that like confidence is earned. Like, anything that you haven't earned is, to me, I look at it as a little bit of arrogance. And it's not to say you don't have to fake it till you fake it till you make kind of thing. I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but I just don't associate that necessarily with the word confidence. But I think it's like, because to me, I look at it as, like I said, it's like it's a confidence in knowing what you are capable of. So it's like not necessarily this new thing came and I have experience doing this new thing, so I feel comfortable. It's not, you don't have to feel comfortable in the space of the new thing, but it is the self-belief that like, I genuinely believe that anything that is set on my table to do, I'm going to be capable of doing it.
Yeah.
But I also wonder if that's like, is that also linked to your connection with like self and therefore like God? Because it's like, do you believe that if God puts something in front of your table, that even if you don't have the skills, he's going to provide you with the skills that you need to make sure that you pull it off?
That's a great point as well. And I think it's hard to tap into that when you're battling so much like fear around, and I think that gets back to the fear around failure. I think that's a pillar of imposter syndrome, is that it's not necessarily that you feel like you're a fraud always, but it feels like you don't want to fail. You know, and that sounds like it might be the same thing, but I think it's a little bit different in that, like, I know, like you said, I know that I'm capable. I got a big old very expensive piece of paper to tell me that I can. But sometimes it's like, even though I know that I can, I don't want to get in this space. All these people are depending on me, and then I mess up. So when I do a good job, I don't want people to be like, this is the normal. Because, like, what if I don't do that good job the next? I don't want, it's almost like I don't want to let people down a little bit. More so than feeling like a fraud in this space. Does that make sense? I haven't finished my coffee. So I don't know if that...
It makes sense, like not wanting to... Yeah.
Like, where do you apply confidence there?
Well, I'm like, I don't know, but I don't really have... I'm not scared to make a mistake and fuck up.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because I feel like that view, that puts a lot of pressure on yourself.
Yeah.
Like, And to think that these people and this job around you, whether it's your peers, whether it's the people you manage or the people above you, to think that they moved through their entire life experience, never fucking up or never making a mistake or never whatever, like it's almost in a way like putting them higher than yourself in a kind of way.
No, it is.
And to me, I just go, I don't know, I'm like, we all make mistakes, we all fuck up. What I can rock with is, if I make a mistake, I'm also accountable. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's to me, if I'm working with somebody and they make a mistake, it's their accountability and their accountability and their solution. Because that's my other thing. Don't just be like, I fucked up and then don't do shit about it. It's like they also brought a solution of like, hey, like, for example, I had one of the people on my team, she messed something up that affected like the warehouse that ended up affecting like all the schools and stuff that we worked on. And I wasn't mad at her. I was just like, hey, so like what happened that you got into a space that you didn't thoroughly look through this or whatever. And when she came to the conversation, she was like, this is what I did. This is how I did it wrong. And this is how in the future I'm going to make it better. And it was fine. And that's, to me as her manager, that's all I could ask of you. Because I can't ask you to be perfect, but I can ask you to be accountable for your actions. So like, I think to me, the pressure to move around life with this pressure of perfection, yet again, the church. Sorry, I've been on the church's ass this week in my journaling. Because I was having this whole thing about how the church teaches us forgiveness without teaching us boundaries and how that's detrimental, but that's a whole other conversation. But I think it's like this need to strive to be perfect creates the imposter syndrome and then cycles you into not feeling enough when it's like, all y'all niggas fumbled to get here.
And that's the thing. That's the funny thing about imposter syndrome. The reason why it is such a topic that we talk about so much is because everybody feels it at every level, at every like, you know, people you think are extremely intelligent still feel fraudulent in their space. And so remembering that you're not the only one that feels that way, I think also is helpful. But in the moment, you can't always remember that because you're so focused on trying to fit in, trying to blend in. One of the things that you said before around like feeling like you're not afraid to mess up, do you apply that in your creative space as well? Because you talked a lot about like wanting to be very detail oriented so that you don't fumble the blah, 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 all the things that you were saying. Do you apply that same grace in your creative journey?
Not as much because I care more, which is wrong.
Isn't that interesting?
Sorry, work. I hope you don't ever watch this. I don't have as much grace with myself about that, but part of that is because like creative space is 100% self-motivated. Like there is no one to hold me accountable. Yeah. Whatever I do is what I do. And so I think that there's a certain level of grace that I don't give myself. Not to say that I shouldn't, but there's a certain level of grace that I don't give myself because I'm like, if I don't keep pushing to be better, then I'll get to something plateau and be stagnant. And I don't want that. So it's like, but I have to balance that because there are times before where I would be unwilling to like put out something because I didn't feel like it was perfect. Yeah. And I had to like let go of that a little bit for sure. And then I'm always working on like unprogramming myself around perfectionism. Yeah. But yeah, I think there is grace, but it's also like I was talking to when we had the last pod meetup. I remember Marlissa from the Green Route pod. She had said like the reality is that people idolize creatives as like, oh my God, you guys are so cool and you create this art and you're so fantastic and all these things, but they don't understand the literal self-doubt that sits behind you in your ear every time that pushes you and pushes you and pushes you and makes you figure it out. And, you know, like you have to, but it's like there's a level of like, there's a monkey on your back all the time. And not everybody wants to deal with that. And that's okay. And not everybody should, but like, in the way that we idolize these artists and or creatives in some way, shape, or form, or even entrepreneurs. Like, I feel like now is the time where everybody wants to be a boss. Everybody wants to be, everybody ain't built for that shit.
Right.
And it's okay that not everybody's built for that, because there is a certain level of constant pressure that you're going to always feel on your back, because everything is just on you.
And I think I also want to challenge the idea of like messing up in the creative space. That's one of, like, how do you mess up as a creative? Isn't it all just a journey?
I mean, as a whole, it's a journey, but I think for me, I mess up when I know I'm not prepared, or if I don't give myself the time to do it well, I then feel like I have messed up. So like, if I know how much energy and time I want to be able to put into creating something, and I shortchange myself that, and therefore the product is something that I don't love, then that's where I feel like I've messed up. Or that's how the pressure fits on me. But like, in overall, I fuck up with other shit all the time. Like, I don't know, we fuck up with lights, we fuck up with cameras. And that doesn't really bother me as much, because it's like, that feels like a learning process. It's where I feel like I've failed myself is where I don't like.
Where you know that you could have done more. And
That's what it is.
Yeah,
if I know I could have done better and I didn't choose to do better, that's where I kind of like get on my head about. Like,
but then that's a dangerous game, especially for people who are perfectionists, because you like want to be perfect all the time.
Yeah, I think in those moments, it's not that I want to be perfect. I look at it and go like, okay, so then this is going to go into a different tangent. Sorry. I have been really sitting with this idea about like what self-love is. And I think that we are sold this idea that self-love is just self-care. It's like, you need to go and, get a massage or put your nails or whatever. But I'm like, I'm really having to broaden this idea of self-love as a way for me to change my perspective so I can get my ass up to be working out more consistently. But it is like, to me, part of self-love is like trying to put yourself in the best situations and circumstances. So like, self-love is being mindful of your nutrition because you're taking care of your body. Self-love is putting yourself in situations where you're significantly less stressed because you understand what stress does to your body. So if you're like, and to that is what stresses me out, is when I don't feel as though I can like properly attack something. I'm stressed because I'm rushing and I'm trying to figure it out and blah, blah, blah. So it's like, am I not practicing self-love in that moment because I didn't give myself the circumstances and the environment to actually be present and enjoy what I'm doing, because the whole time I'm stressed out about it, and then the stress in my body is depleting you know what I'm saying? So I'm trying to broaden like, what is self-love,
And I think, what you talked about, the antidote to imposter syndrome, confidence, I think that's a form of self-love, is believing in yourself. It's a big form of self-love, believing that you have all the tools necessary, and not just believing it when you're having a chat with your friend on a podcast and you sound intelligent, but like believing it when you're really challenged by it. And that's the thing that I think we should try to take with us is don't believe it when it's easy, but also believe it. Don't also believe it when it's hard. You were talking a lot about like, your imposter syndrome in the creative space. And I was kind of reflecting on that as you were talking. And I think I definitely struggle with that as well. Like, for the longest time, I didn't even say that I was a creative. I was just somebody that was on the podcast talking with you. And now I'm like exploring what even being a creative means. And there is a lot of fraud in that. And I think it's because when you don't feel confident in who you are or what you're bringing, you feel like you're many times posturing. Like today, like I initially wanted to like sit up straight and put my coffee away, but I'm like, that's not how I feel. I don't feel like that. And so a lot of what is challenging the imposter syndrome for me is showing up exactly how I am. A little bit hungover, a little bit don't want to be here, a little bit vacation mode, but showing up anyway and just having the conversation. And I think that is very indicative of or maybe not indicative, but I think that is definitely like a resolve to feeling an imposter. It's just showing up, especially in the creative space.
You talked about like, you said something along the lines of like, wanting to blend in.
Mm-hmm.
Are you afraid to stand out?
Yeah, I think so, which is so funny because that's not my personality. But I think that is conditioning a little bit, is feeling like I don't want to stand out. I don't want.
Why?
I don't know what that's about. Because if you were to just meet me, you would think I'd love attention. I'm doing a whole podcast. Like, you would think that I'd like it, but it makes me very, very uncomfortable. When I try to take pictures, I'm very awkward, but in front of the camera, because I don't like the attention being on me. I don't know what that's about.
So you associate standing out with
attention?
Interesting. Okay. So do you feel like when people look to stand out that they're attention seeking? Because you also talked about Erykah Badu, right? And you're like, I love how free she is. Do you feel like that's attention seeking?
Do I think that when people stand out, they're looking for attention?
Pass me that.
Maybe a little bit. Maybe a little bit. I think it does have a little bit to do with ego, and not necessarily in a bad way. I was reading that book, Ego is Enemy. I haven't gone through it, but I'm still working through it. And I don't know. Sometimes I feel like we like to paint ego as a bad thing, but maybe it's not always bad.
I don't believe you're looking to kill your ego. I don't believe that.
Yeah, I don't think that it's necessarily always bad. So people who are standing out are in a bit of ego, feeling, they are. Might have to challenge this thought, but I'm just gonna say it. But I feel like people who stand out might be a little bit in ego, but I don't necessarily know that that's a bad thing. And if they're in ego, then maybe a piece of them is seeking some attention. But I don't know that that's a bad thing.
Don't look at it that way.
Because I don't think attention seeking is bad necessarily.
Okay, that's fair. I don't know. To me, standing out doesn't necessarily mean, in my brain, standing out doesn't necessarily mean attention seeking. I look at it as like, I feel like we're so programmed to like go through the stream this way, and everybody has to act this way, and you got to do that. And to choose to go outside of that program is a conscious decision that you have to make. And then if you choose to go outside of that program, it feels like people who are in the stream are going to look at you and be like, you just want attention. Where in reality, you're like, I just don't want to be in this programming because it doesn't serve me. Like, to stay in this programming is to stay in a mindset of like consumerism and scarcity and like constant worry and fear and all of these things, because I think our American systems control the stream by fear.
100%.
So if you choose to be like, I don't want to live a life constantly in fear, and I'm going to choose to go out here, why is that attention seeking? Rather than you just want to have your own free thought and peace.
But you don't think that people who do that want you to know that they're doing it? Maybe so that
Not
others will be
necessarily.
inspired to do it. Maybe so that they can change the narrative, perhaps. I think that maybe a little bit. People who are outside of the norm.
I feel like that's, I don't know. I think what challenges me with that is like, if you choose to go outside of here and you are let's say you're creative and you're operating in the space of like, I believe that I am gifted and I'm coming here to give my gift. And if you take my gift, you can. And if you don't, whatever. But like, it doesn't mean that like I need your attention. It's more so like, I'm out here, I'm living my life. This is how I want to show up in the world. This is how I want to deliver my gifts. And if you want to rock with me, you rock with me. If you don't, you don't. Like, and it is what it is. But like, I don't know. I think that's an interesting concept to me, because I'm like, I feel like everybody that we are inspired by or idolize in some way are people that kind of go against the grain.
100%.
And so like, it's weird to think that those people are attention seeking, but yet those are the people that you would either idolize or be inspired by?
I don't think anything's wrong with attention seeking. I don't think that that's a bad thing. I don't think there is anything wrong with having a strong belief and wanting people to know what that belief is.
Ooh, that sounds like every black male podcast.
Literally, but honestly,
Kevin
that's very. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Now, do I have to agree with everything that everyone says? No, but if you have a way of thinking that's different than the stream, I think it's important to say that and be honest about that. And I think you should, because why would you say it if you don't want other people to hear it? If you just want to be you and do your own thing, then do that. But I think it's important that we hear those voices. But that takes a lot of courage and a lot of confidence and a lot of awareness and a lot of understanding of what the norm even is. I think some people don't understand the thing about programming. I think there's a lot of people who don't even understand that we're in a programming. There's a lot of people who just think that, you wake up, go to work, get married, have the traditional life, and that's it. I think it takes a lot of self-reflection to even understand the depth of the programming, to even be able to step outside of it. Some people just can't do that. Some people just aren't supposed to do that.
So so then in your mind, do you feel as though because you said you don't want to stand out, do you feel like that means you want to be in the stream, or you want to be out of the stream, but you just don't really want to talk about being out of the stream?
I think that the issue around standing out is not that I don't want to stand out. When I was talking about Erykah Badu, I would love to be an Erykah Badu type of person, but there's a lot of fear with that. There's a lot of deprogramming, unconditioning that's involved in that I just... It's fear. I would love to be able to quit my job, go travel, and do all of those things. But there's this tension that I have with wanting to do what's right. And I know that what's right isn't right, but it's what I've been raised to believe. It's what I've invested my time in and energy in. And I've not even explored what that lane even looks like to even be able to say that I don't like it, because it could work for some people. It could. But I love that we are in an age where we can all express ourselves freely. We're not in a communist society where we're not allowed to have our voices heard. I love that. I'm inspired by that. And maybe one day.
Can I ask, what are you scared of exactly?
Now we in real therapy.
Sorry, I wasn't trying to be a real therapist. You said being, it's you're saying you can acknowledge the programming, but choosing to be out of it, there's fear to go. Sorry, there's a lot of things that I felt like you were on both sides, and I was like, wait, where are you at? But
Aren't emotions complicated?
Why? Yeah, what are you? I guess that's because even when I think about when you talked about your job, it's you said you're nervous about if you do really good, then that means that's going to be the expectation of you, and then you don't. So therefore, you don't want to stand out necessarily. Because then I'm curious about what is the fear about if you stand out?
Yeah. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know what that is. I think it was maybe the last episode or the episode before that, we talked about our head and our heart never really being aligned, or at least for me, very rarely being aligned. And I think that's one of the things where rationally I understand that I am acting in this moment a cog in the system. Ooh. Sorry, guys. But it's just, I don't know. It's just I feel like it's what I should be doing. And I know that I have to challenge should be, because there's no way to live life. But to your point, I think being raised in a very conservative Christian house, you're taught that there's right and wrong. And even as I unpack and deconstruct my belief around Christianity and then try to reconstruct it, I even still struggle with that now. What should my life look like as a Christian, but not that kind of Christian, but this kind of Christian. Like it's a very complicated journey of what I aspire to be, where I am, and eventually bridging the gap between the two of those things.
Okay. Yeah.
It's a journey.
That's real.
It's a journey.
I mean, we can look at the state of our world, and especially, let me speak for this country because I don't know enough about what's going on in the world. I'm like, I haven't been able to travel the last 3 years, and I don't watch the news, but
it's depressing.
I think if we look at it honestly and factually, there are, percentage-wise, I don't think there are a massive percentage of people who are willing to challenge their beliefs or willing to challenge stability or willing to challenge a lot of indoctrinated beliefs just by being an American. Like I was just talking to somebody, they asked me like, what's the best thing that you learned from traveling abroad? And I was like, honestly, going to different countries and talking to people, you understand how narrow your view is. And I think that you also get an understanding of, if you're in America, you're taught that like it's the greatest land ever and it's the freest and it's a blah blah blah. But when you go outside of America, getting non-American perspectives on who they think we are as Americans by our actions is such an interesting perspective to have. Yeah. It's not. They don't even fuck with us.
Not great.
That's why I always am like, I'm from California, and then they like treat you differently than if you're like, I'm from America
or Ohio.
Yeah, they do. But I just think that, like, I don't know. I also know it's innately in me. I'm always been free-spirited, adventurous, but it's just like, I don't know. I just always feel like I only have a certain amount of time on this earth. Let's call it 100 years, right? Like, that's such a short time.
It's really a short time.
I feel that more and more the older I get of how short that time is.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of like, why would I do anything that I don't really want to do? Like, or why would I not figure out a way to, and this is just for me and my personality, who's like, I'm a Sagittarius and we always love our freedom. But like, I think that's part of one of the themes that I'm working out in this lifetime is like, how do I get more and more free? How do I get more and more free? Because even when I think about trying to like grow as a creative, I don't want to grow as a creative to then just have a lot more things to manage. I want to be able to have free, like I want my time. Like I want to do what I want to do, explore what I want to explore. Like I'm going to be the bitch that's 70 years old trying some new shit. You know, I'm going to be the 70-year-old in the class with the 20-year-olds being like, what's that lady doing here? It's like, I don't know. She just be wanting to try some shit. But it's just like, yeah, I don't know. I've always been like, I want to be as free as possible.
And that's one of the things that I am inspired by in you, is that you are that type of person. Like, I know that I moved here from Ohio and whatever, but like, I'm really not that adventurous. Like, this is just like a recent thing because COVID sparked something in me, and then I was like, we need to, leave my home. But like, I'm really not that type of person. I found lately that I'm gravitating toward people like that because I think that there is something in me that wants to eventually be there. But I think one of the things I have to try to unlearn about capitalism is like the fallacy that like if you do capitalism well, you'll eventually be free. In my mind, I'm like,
that's real.
If I just like have my job,
that's the clip right there.
If I have my job and I have my family and I have my house and I go to work every day and I pay my taxes, then one day I'll be able to like have enough money to go travel. And I just don't, now that I'm sort of like understanding adults a little bit better now, I don't believe that. I just don't believe that. And I was talking with my partner, and he was saying he wanted to go back home and spend maybe a couple months in Abidjan, and in my mind, like, I would love to like go and live in Abidjan for some months at a time, but then I'm like, what about my job? And like, I can't, like, it's a duality. You cannot believe both in capitalism and a free society. It doesn't free in the way that you're talking about it, because capitalism requires there be people who aren't free.
Absolutely.
And you have to be willing
Absolutely.
to enslave people for your freedom. I'm not willing to do that. Therefore, I am an enslaved person.
Wait. You think as an individual, you have to be willing to enslave people for that you to have freedom?
In a capitalistic society, I 100% believe that. I 100% believe that, because
I think white people do that for real. I think white people believe that's what you have to do, and then they created a system that does that.
Well, I don't think that it is true, but I think it is what happens in capitalism, where in order for me to have that sort of wealth, that sort of privilege to be able to just get on a plane and go somewhere, there has to be people under me that I've maybe mistreated, I've maybe not followed all the rules correctly, I've broken the rules and then closed the door, which billionaires love to do, and I'm not willing to do that. So it's like, how do I find freedom outside of this?
I see what you're saying. I get that, because I remember going through the process of having to adjust that mindset and just adjust that programming. Because I feel like I specifically asked God to give me models in my life of people who were able to have sustainable businesses and business models that didn't require that. Because I don't want that. I don't desire that at all. But I've seen it. And so... But I also, to your point, as you're saying that, I was like, well, I specifically went searching for that, that model, because I needed to be able to see it to know it was possible. And I think that it exists and it is readily available, but I think you have to desire to see it for it to be brought to you. That is how I look at it.
That's real.
And then you can kind of see, because I've always talked about her a bunch on the show, and all of my Instagram is Francesca Medina and Miriam Hasnea are the baseline of inspiration for business models for me, because their entire network is a complete ecosystem. It's like everybody's sharing, giving. It's very tribal, it's very communal, and it's very like you don't have to... both of their models and just how they run their business, they call it heart-centered business models. It's just like you don't have to fuck over... Ooh, that's not going to be the best word for TikTok. But anyways, that part's not going to be in TikTok, whatever. You don't have to fuck over other people. You can actually be in... Instead of having... This is where my brain is going. There it is. America works off a system that is parasitic.
Yes, I think that's what I meant. Yeah,
are very clear that you can do business symbiotically instead of parasitically. And a symbiotic relationship in biology is like you guys are both benefiting off of interacting with each other, and I think that that's very possible. But I do think there are... You have to want to see it, and you have to search that. You have to search for that, and it also is going to... It's going to mean that you're going to have to choose to do something. These are my beliefs. I think you're going to have to choose to do something that is a little outside of the mainstream. And I also think that you're going to have to choose to understand that you're not going to reach us. Well, I don't like putting caps on people, but I think to a certain extent, you have to understand that you're not going to reach the same level, right? Like, I'm not going to, if I want to have a symbiotic workspace, I may not ever be a billionaire, but I don't care. Like, I don't personally care about that. Like, it just means that you can still make a lot of, and they both make very good money, but they know that to treat people well and to work well and to pay people well and all those things, that means you're going to have to decrease your overhead, and you just have to be a person that's okay with, I don't need $1 billion. Like, I don't need the fucking yacht. Like, it's not necessary. Do I want money to rent a yacht every once in a while? That'd be lit.
That'd be fun.
But, like, do I need to own the yacht? No. Like, do I need to own the PJ? No. Like, I'm okay that I have what I need, and I have what I can to do I have everything I need to take care of myself. And so therefore I don't need to grab at the pot more than necessary so that other people can then also have access to these things.
And that's an unlearning as well. Like when I was sort of talking about freedom and I love how you said that, the parasitic nature of our structure, like in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, the only way I can have absolute freedom is if I'm a billionaire. that needs to be challenged because $1 billion is a lot of money. $1 billion is a lot of millions.
Yeah, and you have to do a lot of wild shit to get there. So you call it freedom, but your peace of mind is going to be fucked for the rest of your life.
Yeah, it's not really freedom.
Yeah.
It's not really freedom. And so challenging, like, what even is freedom for you? What even is freedom for you? Yeah, this is a really good therapy session today. I want to circle it back to imposter syndrome because that was the focus of this episode, but I love how we sort of did a cute little tangent over there. But just if you are feeling like an imposter, I love what you said about, believing in yourself, and not just believing in yourself today, but believing in yourself when it's really hard. And one of the things that I'll take away from this episode is maybe leaving something on my desk or maybe on my phone or maybe in my journal that sort of reminds me of like who I am, and challenging all of these beliefs of like what I should be. And maybe that helps me show up differently in different spaces, workspaces, creatively, wherever I am.
That's it.
Yeah. All right. I think we did it. Okay, we're jumping into the second part of this lovely show. We have not named the segment. This segment is called The Segment. But it is the part of the show where we talk about what's going on in the news and in the world that was just a little bit interesting. So what I wanted to talk about today, I don't know if you've noticed on Instagram, but a lot of people got blue checks now. A lot of people have blue checks. And I was scrolling through the Instagram, and Mr. LeBron James said that he won't have a blue check if he's required to pay for it. What are your feelings around? Okay, I think it's like $15 a month, I think, to have a blue check.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts? Would you pay for a blue check? Why are people paying for blue checks? I think it is the most insane thing that Instagram has done.
My thoughts are I would never.
Ever.
I would never specifically because for me to build a following here, I had to do all of this work. So then why would I pay you for a blue check? Like, that doesn't make sense to me. You giving me if I have to pay you for a blue check, then that means you need to give me something valuable, which would be more followers or monetization or whatever. But I will say that a lot of these social media platforms, especially when we think about Twitter and why Elon Musk is pushing this verification thing, is they were not financially or fiscally solvent. So, like, he bought Twitter as Twitter was tanking because how are you making money? No. So, like, he has to have a subscription service in some way, which I think there's a possibility that, like, that's where social media moves to. It's like to be a part of TikTok, Instagram, etc. It's going to be a monthly subscription because how else are they making? There has to be a money exchange somewhere. But to me, it's like, especially somebody at LeBron James's level, like, I would expect that they would have gave people at that level, just gave them a blue check, just because it's like there's so many people coming to this app to look at information and data and everything for this specific person. Like, you need me on your app.
Right.
So why would I pay you for that shit?
And also, by LeBron not being verified, like you said, it's hurting you. It's not hurting LeBron. LeBron probably does not want to be on social media. If I was LeBron, I would not want to be on social media. So he's on this platform likely for y'all. So if you don't verify him, that's on y'all.
Yeah. I mean, being on the platform does give the people the potential for, like, brand deals or whatever. But, I mean, LeBron is LeBron. People are going to come to him with brand deals whether he's there or not. Yeah. Like, it doesn't matter. But,
and then, like, these not lower, but, less visited platforms where, like, people like maybe you and I, for example, buying a blue check, what is the blue check gonna do as far as like legitimizing what we do on a weekly basis? Like, I just don't see the business case for it, but there are many people that do, because I'm telling you, I started to feel myself a little bit because I was looking through my like likes and I saw a couple blue checks and I was like, oh my gosh. And then they were people that I know and I'm like, what? Why do you have a blue check? Like, what is going on? And they must have paid for it. Yeah. So I hate that that's where we're going.
I mean, I think that they're also saying that it's supposed to help with bots. and it's also supposed to like increase like your security. And as we grow into a more digital age around AI, it's supposed to like verify you as a human as opposed to however AI begins to expand itself,
which is very scary.
Yeah. But I don't know. I just kind of feel like no, like why? But I'm open to the idea, not that I like it, but that from the strict economic standpoint, I think social media is really about to change in the next 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it'll start to cost to interact in these ways.
Similarly, I believe that as well. Like similarly to how you have to pay for streaming platforms like Netflix and Hulu. And I do think that it may legitimize engagement. It might help to legitimize the platform, because I don't even get on Twitter anymore because it is garbage on Twitter. So maybe it might help from that stance, but I just don't like the idea of feeling like people have to, and this is my whole issue with social media, is feeling like the platform is legitimizing you, not the thing that you're doing. You pay $15 and all of a sudden you're legit or you're official. Like, why wasn't all of the work and all the effort that you've done to get your 1,000 followers or whatever legitimate enough? You need to now pay for a check.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like I said, it's going to be like what I've heard them talk about is it's a way to verify against the whole bots thing.
Yeah.
Because there is, I mean, we know that there are a lot of bots. There are posts that we have that immediately as we post it, there's immediate like 3, 4, 5 send to blah, 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 blah. Right? So like, I understand it. I don't really care for it, but I understand it from that lens. But I do think that it would have been better if they presented it as, we don't have the money anymore. This is just going to be a subscription model that everyone has to do to be a part of it. If you want to be a part of this social media platform, you have to pay a subscription model. Because I think what harmed the situation or how people took it is like what a blue check meant before. And then reality, they're changing what a blue check means.
Yeah.
Because a blue check before meant
you're that girl.
Yeah, it gave you like the security, whatever, but it was like you have this, and because I've had friends that have had to submit the information they need for a blue check, like they're artists or whatever, and it's like you have to have been in a certain amount of publications, you had to have had this many articles written about you, like blah, 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 and it was cementing that like you were a professional in your artistry game in one shape or form. And even if you're an influencer, it is like you got this because you became a professional in this influence space.
Right.
Whereas now, I really think the only meaning of a blue check is that you have done the work to verify who you are and that you are a real person instead of a bot. But like, I don't know. Maybe they're just like, it is what it is. We're making that shift, and people are just going to, over time, people will just catch up to it. But I think that that's where the amount of tension that comes from it is like, you're asking me to pay you to verify me, even though I have all this stuff. But it's like, well, actually, in reality, it's not really about pointing out that you that nigga or you that girl.
Yeah,
it's really
just
about like
security.
Like we don't care how you feel about it. So I think that it would have been easier to just have done a like subscription service, and if you pay, then you are verified. But given there's still a way to have bots work in a subscription service. I don't know.
Yeah. I think I kind of challenge this idea of like social media being behind a paywall, because I don't know, when we like initially came out with social media, like all of the like globalization that social media allowed, I feel like if we, like, for example, I'm about to quote something I have no context for, so I'm just going to say, if there was a war and somebody needed help in a war, they could have gotten on Facebook or Twitter and say like, hey, we're struggling. And so all of these like news outlets that like block the information, social media allowed their voices to be heard. So now that there's a paywall, like, will that change?
Sure. I mean, the beauty of social media was that it was a way to give access and power to people a lot more, but once it grows and you see the capacity, then people in power are going to try to capitalize on it.
Yeah,
like that's just the nature of certain human beings. But I mean, that's even like to the TikTok thing, and like how there's a large chance that TikTok is going to get banned in the US, and it's all off of the fact that like they didn't like that too many people in the US were getting access to too much information, and they don't like what that is, and they're not presenting it that way in their argument, but that's what it is at the end of the day. It's a mechanism for control. Like, so I mean, who knows what happens? I don't know if like they're going to go to a pay model and then other creators in some way are going to create something that is free that people will flock to, type of thing. I have no idea how it'll all work out, but it's just
this world is so interesting because it evolves almost every day. You know, there's another
it is,
app that TikTok owns, Lemon8 or something like that. It's like a whole other platform. Like there's a whole other, I think it's probably like a backup for if TikTok gets banned. But like it seems like every single day this world is like morphing into something else. And I just hope that whoever is in charge, because it's not Jesus. Jesus not in charge of this. So whoever's in charge, I hope they know where it's going. Because with
yeah, they do, but they don't care about y'all. They don't give a fuck about us.
No, and they don't care about voices being heard. They don't care about anything. It's all about monetization, and that's so dangerous.
Monetization and power.
And power, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's so especially in this world where we're living in the AI world where, like, it can create images and voices that sound so real. Like, I know it's, like, all fun and cute, and I know I did give my face to the Russians for AI. Sorry, I was a part of the problem. But
that's why I was laughing, because I'd be like, you be doing wild shit to be so against all of this. I'll be in that shit like
but
that.
then now we're looking at it, and I'm like, bro, these images look real. Like, did you see when Trump got arrested on Twitter? Oh my gosh! So some AI made like what it would look like if Trump got arrested, and my boy was fighting for his life, trying not to go to jail.
He didn't have his wig no more.
But it looked so real, and like an AI created that. Yo, that is really freaking scary.
Yeah, I mean, what they're doing with our data in general is like, because you're like, that's very much a new currency, is like people's data, because you want to have the most amount of data, create your AI the best way, and blah 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 blah. Like. It is. And I do think that it's going to cause a very clear, distinct separation at some point. Like, there are going to be people who are all about the digital, all about that, and there are people who are going to be distinctly not for it. And I think that I don't know what that coming to a head looks like at some point, because I feel as though the more we move in that space, the less humane we become.
Absolutely. Because
somebody just becomes a digital signature, so treating them any kind of way doesn't really matter. It doesn't need empathy because it's digital. Like, so I don't know if it like will get far enough in a separation that at some point a lot of these people in this digital space will realize how fucked up this causes humanity to be, and kind of try to pull this back together in a way that works for everybody, or if there's just going to be a very real overall split. I don't really know, but the world is, I mean, we're always evolving. If you think about like, so I just read this thing when somebody was talking about how as much as we complain about dating is a lot more modern than we think. Like, we weren't really dating more than like, 150 years ago.
Yeah, like dating is a very new.
And so when people are like, dating is trash and dating is this, it's like, in the reality, we're still trying to figure out what the fuck it is, because it's only 100 years. Like, we look at humanity in these small scopes, but it's in a very large timeline. So I think about that too. It's like, as technology continues to advance, we got to just take our best guesses of like what's going to happen and what comes of it. But
as you were talking, I was thinking about the food system and how, like, when we first started to grow food, it was like real food. And then the more people who needed food, we had to figure out a way to produce it quicker. So then we added all these additives and hormones to like make it better, make it more last longer. But then by doing that, we created a lot of sickness and illness in our population. And that's the same way I think about social media. It's like when it first came, it was like very organic, non-GMO, and then more people wanted it. There was a need. So we're adding all these additives. And I just hope that we can learn from our mistakes in the agricultural space, in the social media space, of like, this can really be a game ender for us. We have to be good stewards of technology and the advancements that we're making. We cannot just let people be making images that look real and just like laughing about it. Like, that's very dangerous. Like,
but I mean, that puts responsibility on the individual.
Yeah.
the individual to make choices, because the only reason people and companies can come on and hop on and be like, let me try to control or do anything with this, is because they see how the choices that the individuals are making, and they understand that this is a mechanism to control how people are making choices. So like, there's still, we can talk globally, but there's an individual responsibility.
Yeah.
And how whatever choices you make in your everyday life either do or don't contribute to it. And there are ways that, and that's not judgment, because there are absolutely ways that I contribute to all this, just having to live life and liking convenience and the convenience that technology gives from it.
That Russian face thing was really cool. I liked all of my
wasn't doing
AI
that shit.
avatar things.
But it is like, we can talk about the world, but how are we contributing to it as a consumer? And literally, to the top of this episode and imposter syndrome and all the other stuff and going against the stream, it's like, either you go with the stream or you don't. And that's an individual choice you make every fucking day. And it just is what it is. And it'll build the, like, we are individually and collectively building the world every day. And building reality and building what our society and social systems and things look like. So it's just about, to me, I just look at it as, how do you want to contribute?
Yeah.
And it just is what it is.
I agree.
And not be too stressed and too scared about where it's going, because, not to say that I don't think it's going to a poor direction, but it's just, I can't
There's
stress
nothing you can
about
do about it.
a future that I don't have a control over and don't know what it is. So
yeah, you just make the decisions that are best for you in the moment, the most ethical decisions that are best for you in the moment, for sure. So if you see us with a blue check, we didn't pay for it, we earned that shit, period.
I don't even think they letting people earn it no more. You just not gonna see a blue check.
You just not, we never verified.
It is what it is.
All right, y'all, well, this has been another episode of the Occasionally Accountable podcast. Thank you so much for listening.
You can find us on all of our social media platforms, which are TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. On the TikTok and Instagram that we just shitted on, but here we are. It is at @the_OA podcast, and on YouTube we are at the Occasionally Accountable podcast.
We are. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye, guys.